There are 7 main steps we've taken every one of our 7-figure ads through. We've used these 7 steps to scale 2 8-figure online businesses with paid video ads. And we've spent over $1.5 million battle testing these methods. The following 7 steps are in chronological order of the exact process I go through when launching an ad. This goes for photo ads, copy ads, and video ads. Whether your ads are losing you money, breaking even, or barely profitable, I can almost guarantee you will know exactly how to fix them after this video. But before I reveal what those 7 troubleshoot steps are, you have to understand what I refer to as the ad cycle. 100% of the ads you launch need to follow this cycle in this exact order. So here it is. The first phase of the ad cycle is to test, or put simply, just spend money. After we've got data to work with, it's time to analyze. We look for patterns, we look for problems, and then we conclude what the problem is. Now, once we've met a conclusion, we revise. This is where we make big changes. Just do it! We fix the problem, give the ad a new hook, change the creative, try a new headline, fix the landing page, etc. Following a revision or a change, the next step is to repeat the cycle all over again, testing the now newly revised ad to get a new analysis and, if needed, new revisions. After multiple revisions, if all metrics finally look good, we have found our first winning ad. Upon finding a winning ad, we now take 2 routes. The first is the most obvious, and that is to scale. Scaling takes on 2 forms, increasing the budget, and the second is scaling into new countries. I personally start all of our ads in the United States, and once proven successful, I'll scale into Canada, Australia, and about a dozen or so other European countries like the United Kingdom. The second route is the one that most people actually don't think to take, and that is to make an iteration of the winning ad. The fact that you found a winning ad means you're onto something, so don't just stop there, make an iteration. And once an iteration is created, we send it through the process again, and the ad cycle of life continues. All right, that is the ad cycle, and that needed to be taught before I dive into the following 7 steps. I'll be showing you how each of these 7 troubleshoot steps falls into one of these ad cycle phases I just taught you. But with that groundwork in place, let's jump into my 7 steps to troubleshooting 7-figure ads. The very first troubleshoot is a huge common mistake I see, and that is to follow the 5-day rule. This falls into the analyze phase of the ad cycle. We've launched the ad, money is being spent, and we're now analyzing data. Not giving your ad ample time to learn is the first mistake in troubleshoots to be careful of. Whether it's Facebook ads, Google ads, or YouTube ads, all ad platforms are run by the all-knowing algorithm. The sole purpose of an algorithm is to learn. That's its main job. And when launching a paid ad, we have a rule to let it run at $10 a day for at least 5 days. That's the bare minimum. $1.5 million later, we have learned that it's roughly around day 5 that your ad's true colors start to come through. And yes, that's just $50. I can't tell you how many advertisers I see thinking they have to spend $30, $50, or even $100 a day when they first launch an ad. Let me set the record straight. Launching an ad is very different than scaling an ad. Absolutely, the goal is to get up to those higher budgets. But when you first launch, there's zero necessity to spend more than $10 a day. Trust me when I say we've tried both routes. We have indeed launched ads at $100 a day instead of $10. And guess what? Unsurprisingly, if you just launch an ad that sucks, spending $100 a day out the gates only makes the sucking cost 10 times more than had you launched it at $10 a day. So no, spending more money faster does not make your ads learn quicker. We found time and time again that spending too much too quickly can actually have the opposite effect. It overwhelms the algorithm, rushing it to hurry and spend a huge budget in just 24 hours. Algorithms are much like children. If you give them $100 to spend, it's going to find a way to spend it. Wisely or not, it will be spent. So it's in your best interest to be hyper effective with your ad spend. Aside from spending too much money too quickly, and thereby overwhelming the algorithm, I also see the exact opposite scenario, which is an equally common mistake, and that is shutting the ad off too soon. I've launched campaigns that have started out at a $5 cost per click, and in a matter of 4 days, came all the way down to a $1 cost per click. So just relax and give the ad time to learn. Remember, the algorithm is a child. Every new ad launched is like learning the ABCs. Don't become impatient and frustrated that your 1-year-old daughter can't make it past the letter C. She can't even walk yet. If you shut an ad off before that day 5 mark, you may have just killed a potentially awesome ad. This 5-day rule is less of a rule and more of a guideline. Yes, rules are sometimes meant to be broken, and sometimes your intuition needs to step in. If your ad is looking absolutely abysmal on every possible front by day 3, sometimes it's not worth even making it to day 5. We try to live by this 5-day rule because we've seen ads correct themselves by that point. But a bad ad is a bad ad. And if the writing's on the wall after day 2 or 3, it's time to go through troubleshoot troubleshoot steps 2 through 7, which leads us to step number 2. The second troubleshoot step is a 2-part landing page analysis. This step also falls into the analyzing phase of the ad cycle. We're looking for problems. After you've spent $40 to $50, why are my leads so expensive? Why is no one purchasing? This troubleshoot is made of 2 parts, a technical part and a creative part. Let's start with the technical. Sometimes I'll have an ad with an awesome cost per click, click-through rates, and engagement numbers. But for whatever reason, it's getting little to no leads, let alone purchases. Only to find, after going through the funnel myself, that there was a broken button or a URL malfunction. I can't tell you how many times this has happened to us. Softwares are anything but perfect. EverWebinar, ClickFunnels, Teachable, Samcart, WordPress, Kajabi, and the millions of other landing page softwares out there are simply just imperfect. This technical check is to find bugs and broken parts. The next and more important part is creative in nature. After checking your technical problems, this is a great opportunity to analyze whether or not your landing page just sucks, period. Is it too wordy? Is it messy? Are your headlines confusing and drawn out? Are there multiple calls to action? Your landing page as a whole needs to follow what I call the landing page hierarchy. This states that when someone lands on your page, the human eye will immediately start from the top of the page towards the center and make its way down. This is why, unsurprisingly, the majority of landing pages you land on will have the headline at the very top and centered. It's the first place we look. This is where our hungry eyes look for answers. What is this about? What's the offer? Is this a scam? Pay attention to what weight each font is carrying. Make the most important message the biggest and heaviest. Less important information, smaller, less weight, and less important colors. And a cool little tool that we use to analyze our landing pages is called eyequant.com. This shows you a heat map of the hottest spots on your page of where people will be looking. This, again, is not a perfect software, but these heat maps have been generated from analyzing millions of high-converting landing pages. So it's a great place to start. If you want an even more in-depth look at your landing pages, a great free tool that I use is Hotjar. It's a piece of code you put on your page, and after recording all the traffic sent to it, it will show you where people are clicking the most, how far people are scrolling, how long they spend on the page, etc. And I'll put links to both of those softwares in the description. The last part of this troubleshoot step is to understand that the most important thing you can optimize your landing page for is consumption. Instead of coming straight out the gate with a pitch fest and dollar signs, focus on value and information. You must be focused on education. I can't stress this enough. Whether it's a $10 product or a $200 product, you must add value to their lives before they even consider buying from you. But moving on, we have the third step to troubleshooting ads, and that is to confirm and double confirm that your tracking is set up correctly. Again, falling into the analyze phase of the ad cycle, we're still looking for problems. This one, believe it or not, is actually one of the most common problems I see when I mentor our students one-on-one. They'll be livid over the fact that they spent $100 on ads and got no conversions. Then, after 60 seconds of looking at their accounts, I found that they have no tracking set up, or it's just set up incorrectly. No wonder they're so frustrated. Google Ads is saying it got no conversions because there was no conversions to track in the first place. Come to find, they actually had 30 conversions, they just didn't have the tracking set up to report it, thus leading them to shutting off an ad that was actually doing really well. Do not launch a single ad until tracking is fully set up. I recommend using Google Tag Manager for all of your tracking needs. Facebook pixels, Google conversions, and even softwares like Hotjar, as mentioned above, are made super easy. All right, moving on to step number 4. That is to check your consistency. This is the last step that falls into the analyzation phase before I start moving on to the revision phase. This one can be harder to spot and it's easy to overlook, but it all starts with your targeting and your video ad. Are you targeting people in the investing world, for example, who are day traders? But your ad is better catered to long-term investors. In this instance, there's a disconnect between the type of person you are targeting and the messaging of your ad. Another common inconsistency is between the call to action and your landing page. If, for example, you have a call to action pitching a 1-hour webinar, but the landing page is selling a course that costs money and an option to buy a t-shirt, people are going to drop like flies. They thought they were going to get a webinar, but instead are getting force-fed a $400 course. If you pitch a webinar, give them the webinar. If you're pitching an ebook, show them the ebook. If you're retargeting a warm audience to buy the course at a discount, show them the discounted course. Likewise, it wouldn't hurt to visually show the viewer that you're going to ask for an email or that they have to sign up for something. In all of these instances, consistency is very simply setting an expectation for the viewer. If there's a huge disconnect between what people thought they were going to get and what they actually got, you, my friend, have a consistency problem. I would make a revision and send it back through the ad cycle. Next, we have the fifth troubleshoot step, and that is to experiment with targeting. With step number 5, we've at long last arrived at the next phase in the ad cycle, which is to revise. At this point, it's time to try showing your ad to new eyeballs. On YouTube ads, that means trying out new keywords, new topics, new placements. On Facebook ads, that means new interests, new lookalikes, and so on. Whatever the platform, try as much as you can without excessive or unnecessary spending. I do not think that you have to get out of control with testing across different audiences, but I have indeed found that some ads perform well on one audience and not on another. The best audiences to target when you're very first launching an ad are warm audiences. This could be your YouTube viewers for YouTube ads, or a proven lookalike audience for Facebook ads, or anyone who's watched an ad before. By starting with warm audiences, you can normally confirm that the ad is even worth trying to scale into much colder audiences. I will always give my ads several chances of being shown to several different audiences. The only way to know for sure is to A/B test. After trying multiple audiences, if your numbers are still looking trashy, it's time to move on to step number 6. But before you do, you must remember the golden rule of A/B testing, and that is test one variable at a time. Now that we're getting into this revision phase of the ad cycle, you're going to want to start making a lot of changes. If you've decided that your landing page needs to be revised before you're targeting, test one at a time. If you change both your landing page and your audience at the same time, you'll be left absolutely clueless as to which one was responsible for the success. Take the guesswork out and test just one variable at a time. Speaking of variables, let's move on to step number 6, and that is to change the video ad creative. This step is the most important step in this 7-step troubleshoots. If there's any revision you make, this one is by far the most important one that will move the needle the most. The ultimate goal is to make an ad that will perform well with most, if not all, audiences that you throw it up against. Every step before this one can make a difference, but this step right here will make most of the difference. Changing your ad creative is one of the most obvious changes to make. Everyone knows that. But it's arguably the most time intensive. Scripting, filming, and then editing a brand new video ad can sometimes take up to a week to complete. But I will say this, I am a die-hard believer in a good video ad creative. After all, I am a filmmaker. But just like every other step before this, you still need to send your ad creative through the analyzation phase before jumping to any revisions. The 3 biggest metrics I look at to determine if my video ad is winning or losing is the following. Number 1, cost per click. Number 2, click-through rate. And number 3, view rate. All 3 of these metrics are going to differ slightly on the product and the targeting options you use, so take this as a guideline and again, not a 10 commandment of marketing. But as a guideline, you should shoot to have a cost per click that is under $2, but more ideally under $1.50. A click-through rate of no less than 1%, but ideally above 1.5%. And finally, a view rate of no less than 15%, but no more than 40%. View rate is calculated by the percentage of people who watch at least 30 seconds of your ad. For Facebook ads though, this would be anyone who's watched at least 25% of the ad. Again, I'll repeat, these metrics aren't commandments, just general metrics to shoot for. Also, notice that I didn't mention cost per lead. Why? Because the ad's job is to get a click. A landing page's job is to get a lead. So if you're getting great clicks but no leads, it's normally not the ad's fault, but rather the landing page's fault. Not always, but most of the time. Now, what if your metrics really are just terrible? It's time to change the ad creative. This is again a revision. I revise my ads in the following 4 chronological steps. 1, change the B-roll. 2, change the hook. 3, condense and cut out. And finally 4, start from scratch. These 4 steps are ordered easiest to hardest in terms of execution. Step 1 and 2 are the lowest hanging fruits that are quick revisions. Steps 3 and 4 take much more time. Step 1 is the easiest to test. Oftentimes, just simply changing the way the ad looks visually is enough to significantly boost engagement, even if the script has gone literally untouched. You can see an example of this when I resurrected an ad that started running out of steam. Here was the original version.
Here are the top questions that I get about how to create cinematic videos. What camera should I buy? What lenses should I use and when?
And here is the new version with new B-roll.
Here are the top questions that I get about how to create cinematic videos. What camera should I buy? What lenses should I use and when?
So by giving this whole ad an entirely new facelift, engagement improved drastically. Step 2 is to change the hook. Your hook is without fail the most important part of your entire ad. This should be your main point of focus when changing ad creative. A hook involves both what the viewer is hearing, or in other words, the script, and what they are seeing, which is the B-roll. So those two go hand in hand. Sometimes the hook you you chose just isn't grabbing attention. It might be too long or too hard to digest. It might not make sense, or sadly, it just might suck altogether. Here's an example of an ad where I did just that. Here's the original.
Let me show you 10 filmmaking secrets that will level up your videos. Number 1.
And here is the altered hook.
Here's 10 things every filmmaker must know about filmmaking before they ever press the record button. Number 1.
Now at first glance, this altered hook may seem insignificant, but it brought in 4 times more sales than the original when we A/B tested them against each other. And then step 3 is to condense and cut out. Shave off unnecessary fluff. Err on the simple side. Make the call to action clear and concise. The attention span of the average viewer is just a couple of seconds. So getting rid of unneeded fat can be the difference between a winning ad and a losing one. And finally, step number 4 is to just start from scratch. You can only do so much to save an ad until you have to admit defeat. Move on and go back to the drawing board. Give it a new script and a totally new look. But moving on to the 7th and final troubleshoot step, and that is to change your offer. Okay, this again falls into the revision phase of the ad cycle and is one of my last attempts to get my funnel profitable. If you've had the misfortune of making it to step 7, unfortunately the failures of your ads and your funnels as a whole are much deeper than you may think. This notorious step number 7 is only necessary if your ads are getting great clicks, great views, great leads, but it's failing to bring in sales. If you've made it to this point, it's likely you have an offer problem. A weak offer is easily one of the biggest reasons people leave you hanging. It's very simple. What are you offering? Is it irresistible? Are people dying of thirst in a desert and you present them a 10-gallon jug of water? Your offer in its simplest form is a negotiation. You're making an exchange with someone. In a negotiation, both parties offer something the other party wants. In the case of signing up for a webinar, people are giving you their time and private information like an email. In exchange, they're hoping to get exactly what they want. Not sure what they want? That is your problem. They're likely not going to sign up for your webinar. If they do make it through your webinar, they are now deciding whether or not to give you their money and even more time. So again, what are you giving them in exchange? Whatever it is that you're offering, it must be verbalized and presented in a way that is mouth-watering and irresistible. At each stage in your funnel, you are offering something. In your ad, you're offering a free training in exchange for a click. On the landing page, you're offering a free training in exchange for an email. In the webinar, you are now offering a paid product in exchange for money. Experiment with new offers. But there you have it. Those are the 7 steps to troubleshooting any and all ads that happen to have settled in the I suck category. These 7 steps take a lot of work. I've done the easy part, which is outlining the steps that need to be done. The real work is that it's going to take a lot of analyzing, revising, and testing again. But after generating over $12 million online, we've done the dirty work for you and have put together over 150 detailed trainings showing you how we've successfully spent over $1.5 million on paid ads and how to package your knowledge or skills into an online course. We've condensed that 150 video course into a 1-hour webinar that you can watch for free if you're not completely sold on buying the course. And you can watch that by clicking the link in the description. If that sounds fair, click the link below and I will see you guys in the next video. We'll see ya.